Hello and welcome. My name is Mendy.
And I'm True.
We are a group of friends bound by our love of TTRPGs, and our job here is to explore possible options on how to play the character you've always wanted to play in any game that you've ever wanted to play. Today, we have both made a support bard character in the new Daggerheart system by Darrington Press. And we're going to be going level by level, explaining each of our builds and why we chose them. If you like this video, please give us a like and subscribe to the channel, where we'll be creating many more of these builds with various different games. True, would you mind explaining the idea of your character and what you're going to be doing at level 1?
Absolutely. So my idea for this character, I always like knowledge-specific characters, but being a bard, you kind of want to go presence. So with this support build, the character idea is to help support through not only helping the party, but also knowledge and information gathering. Tends to help the party more than anything else. But yeah, so the idea was essentially to have that knowledge presence build. So to start off with, I decided to go with Gambison as the main armor and go with the general suggested traits of the 2 presence: 1 knowledge, 1 finesse, 0 instinct, 0 agility, and -1 strength. So I wanted to keep a lot of that just because that works for the build that I'm trying to go for. So at level 1, for the ancestry, I did go with Halfling because I wanted to have their hope that they can hand out each session. So getting in a session, they can hand out that 1 hope to everybody, and then to be able to re-roll my hope. So I was looking to get something reliable with their rolls, and then Loreborn was the other side of this because, again, going with the knowledge idea, and so wanted to be able to have that advantage going into recall of famous places and people, things of that nature. So yeah, that was the kind of start off with for the baseline. And then I went with the foundation of Troubadour. If you're going support, you almost have to go Troubadour. And then my first 2 choices for the domain cards were Inspirational Words and then Book of the Iliad. I think those were kind of the main foundations I think would work best starting at level 1. Gives you some versatility, gives you that kind of support-esque idea that you're wanting to right off the bat anyways. So yeah, I think that worked out really well, because with Inspirational Words, you can clear a stress, heal a hit point, or gain a hope. But with the Book of Iliad, I really liked the telepathy, arcane barrage, and the slumber spells that you end up taking with that. So it gives you a little more versatility outside of just support. I think that was kind of the baseline that I want to go for anyway. And then for a weapon, I am going to specify this. Besides Gambison armor for what he's going to be wearing, because I want that evasion. My emphasis is going to be on evasion and being able to hit from far away. So I went with a scepter that uses the trait of presence, but gives you that far range ability, and then obviously a little bit of that up front when you need to with the versatility of the D10. So he'll be dealing at least D6 magic damage from far away as long as he hits. So that was kind of the main idea with that one. I didn't really care too much about the secondary weapon, but if I'm going secondary, I'm just going to have a round shield just to kind of have on hand in case I pick up another weapon, because obviously you're going to pick up weapons as you go and other equipment as you go, so kind of slightly planning for the future. So those were my level 1 picks. What'd you end up picking?
So for this character, I kind of just went for a pure on like battlefield controller. I wanted to play a character that could just shut down the battlefield anytime there's combat. And with the additional option of clearing that stress, clearing that HP, helping out during like hard times, being able to make a quick getaway, making sure none of your friends perish. So with that, I'll start out with my heritage. I went with Clank here. And
Okay.
I love the idea of a Bard Clank, just a little like robot machine, literally a DJ. But the main reason
Or a music box.
or a music box, like the main reason I wanted to take Clank is because of purposeful design. Decide who you were created by and for what purpose. Choose an experience that you have that reflects this and increase it by 1. So this is completely up to you as the player. You could go pure, like, my Clank was created simply to make music. Or this Clank, he was literally designed to be the ultimate healer or ultimate support character. So in that case, you would just choose whatever experience feels right to you as the player and just plus it by 1. And also, for efficient, another effect from the Clank ancestry, whenever you take a short rest, you can substitute a long rest move for one of your short rest moves. That's going to come into play a little bit later with things like rally, stuff like that. You'll be able to pop those out a lot faster and give players, better hope dice. You'll be able to clear more and more stress, because you can knock out a few short rests in a day, but you can only knock out 1 long rest in a day.
And to kind of caveat that bit, if you don't mind me jumping in here, for people that don't understand what a short rest means, in Daggerheart, a short rest has a lot that goes into it for you mechanically. So you have options when you do a short rest to tend to your wounds, and you can clear up to D4 hit points. However, if you do the long rest version of that, you clear all hit points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge difference. You can have clear stress, which again is clear 1d4, turns it to, and if you do choose that as your option, that's a long rest, clear all stress. Same goes for repair armor. Same goes for prepare. When you're preparing and you gain two hope, you get way more going on with that when you do the long rest. Same goes for work on a project, for instance. So there's a lot that you can do with that, and you can help your party members do that sort of stuff. So that's why that's a smart move for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of, I try to do a lot of like cohesion in this build. Like I want everything kind of working off of one another. But for my traits, I went pretty simple here. I did a 0 to agility, my -1 to strength, a +1 to finesse, a 0 to instinct, +2 to presence. Presence is going to be your big one. If you're playing a bard, you're going to want that presence up. And then I did a +1 to knowledge.
Okay.
As a starting armor, I went ahead and also did the Gambeson armor with you.
Yeah.
It seems the best, especially for this build. And then for weapons, I went a rapier, just because that is a presence weapon in case you ever do get into those close like proximity battles. You're going to want something to defend. And for my secondary weapon, I just went with a simple small dagger, because it complements the rapier. It's a finesse weapon this time, but whenever it's paired, you get a +2 to primary weapon damage in melee.
Yeah.
So your bard's going to be kind of up front in the very beginning, but we'll pick up some domain deck cards to get out. And then,
well, what was your community that you chose?
My community that I chose, I went ahead and went with Orderborn. Just a couple things. We'll throw the cards up on the screen so that you can take a look at it. But this gives you the ability Dedicated. Record 3 sayings or values your uprooting instilled in you. Once per short rest, when you describe how you're embodying one of those principles through your current action, you can roll a 2d20 as your hope die instead of a d12. And that is going to be huge. So this is something you kind of want to sit down with your GM, speak to him or her about, whether like what kind of campaign is this actually going to be, so that I can instill these dedicated sayings into the game and use them more often, because that d20 is going to be massive.
Well, that, and another point for that is you can have your experiences kind of roll in tandem with your dedicated sayings.
Exactly.
So that way they do nicely complement each other. So when you do roll, you're really going to roll well, especially when you spend that hope to gain maybe a +2 or a +3 from your experience, plus that d20, plus the other d12, like amazing. So yeah, that is a great one for sure.
No, 100%. I also, just for starting inventory, I took health potion and a romance novel. This is completely up to you. Whatever you think you're going to use more. You could even go a letter never opened as another starting thing, as another starting inventory item. Just flavor it with your character, whatever you're feeling. And now we get to the fun part. We get to the domain deck cards that I have chosen. And the first one that I decided to choose is the Book of Ava. I think the Book of Ava is the strongest deck card that you could take right from the jump. It gives you 3 abilities. Power Push, make a spellcast roll against a target on melee range. On a success, they're blasted back to far range and take 2d10 plus 2 magic damage using your proficiency. And this is where I'm talking about kind of that like battlefield controller. You can push enemies back. If someone gets 2 in the face of your tank, you can push them back. Give your tank just a second, like enough time to drink a healing potion, go do anything else you need. And my favorite effect from this card is Tava's Armor. You could use an action to spend a hope that gives a target you can touch a plus 1d6 to their armor score the next time they mark an armor slot. Now, you can't stack this, but especially at early levels, this is so strong because you're able to do this with as much hope as you have. And you can go around just buffing every player, giving them that 1d6 to their armor, and making them basically invincible, especially at these early levels. And then Ice Spikes is also a good one. We're going to need some spellcasting damage to go on. We can't just be all control in case things really get out of control, but you would make a spellcast roll to summon large Ice Spikes within a very far range. If you use them as a weapon on a success, deal d6 physical damage using your proficiency. It's a very, very nice thing to have. And for my second one, True, I went ahead and took Inspirational Words.
Of course. Got to.
Yeah, you got to. I'm trying to.
If you're gonna go support, you gotta go with Inspirational Words. There's no way around it.
You gotta take it. And I'm taking a lot of Codex cards with this build, so you'll notice that this is one of the few Grace cards that I actually ended up taking. But it's just so.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but it's just.
I went the opposite way.
Yeah. It's just so good. We'll throw it up on the screen so you can read it. But basically, it's just a way to clear stress, heal a hit point, or gain a hope for you or an ally. All right.
Well, now, to caveat this a little bit, the Book of Ava is something, so if anyone has watched our Daggerheart playtest, this is something that Mendy has used on a wide range of occasions within those 2 shots there, particularly Power Push and Tava's Armor. I don't think you ever end up using Ice Spikes, but the other 2, super effective.
Yeah. No, I had a plan for Ice Spikes, and I'm so upset I didn't get to use it. But you'll have to check if you guys are interested in those 2 videos. The links will be down in the description. Please check those out. They were a lot of fun. True.
Now, what foundation did you go with, by the way?
Let's see here.
Did you go Troubadour or did you go Wordsmith?
Oh, I apologize. I completely missed that. I went Troubadour. I just like I said, I love the idea of a clank with an instrument. As an instrument, I envision him playing like a lute, like a stringed instrument of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, I was tempted to go Wordsmith with this one since he's a knowledge kind of guy as well. But Troubadour seemed to make the most sense to really get the right support for the rest of the party. And having those 3 options at your disposal is super good. That was it. A relaxing song or an epic song or a heartbreaking song, like those 3 were really great to have in there. So yeah, I think those are all solid level 1s. And I think you could even alter this to where you have like a very armor heavy sort of bard.
Yeah.
To kind of get that protection that way.
I was thinking the same thing.
So with the way that 1.5 is, now mind you, this is just beta at the moment, like it's not the real game, but with the way that 1.5 is, and they took away minor wounds, so you no longer have your minor threshold for your wounds there, and that's where armor is going to come into play almost even more. or being really heavy into the evasion is going to come into play even more, because you're going to need something that's going to drive that damage down for you. So you're not either you're negating all the damage, or you are driving it below your major threshold, so you're only taking 1 hit point each time, or you're going the evasion route and hopefully getting, swing and a miss on you every single time if you can. Yeah. So you kind of have to commit to one route or the other. It's kind of hard to build both properly. So yeah, but I think those are the good first level right there. And of course, as you do go through your world, whatever campaign you go through, you're going to be picking up other items and stuff. So don't worry too much about how you currently play that character. But as far as these domain cards, between Mendy's and mine, I think those are going to be probably your best first levels. So yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think there's any wrong answer here with those first 2 levels. Speaking of levels, True, what did you decide to do with level 2?
So level 2, I have it written down here because I'm a little scatterbrained sometimes. So I decided to go with a trait increase. So it gives you the ability to increase 2 character traits. Reason being is because I want that presence to get higher. You need it to get higher. A lot of the cards that I ended up choosing requires you to have almost a high presence, so that way you can have these tokens on the card that you can use later. So that comes into play. So now my presence becomes a +3, and I also increase my knowledge because, again, I want to make sure I'm able to pull upon that whenever possible. And the more reliable a knowledge score you have, the better off you're going to be. So now I'm at a +2 for knowledge. I did go with the evasion increase, so I've got another +1 in there for the evasion. So I should be sitting at, if I'm not mistaken, an 11 for evasion, because Gambeson gives you a +1. The Bard starts at 9, so here we are at 11, right? Then I took Book of Siddle. I think it's Book of Siddle. Anywho, I don't pronounce things well. What I wanted from that was the fact that you could adjust your appearance and that you could create illusions. Those 2 to me were extremely, extremely valuable. I did like the other ones. It's just, I think this Codex book was probably the better one. Well, one of the better ones anyway. And then you can also spend a hope to cast this spell on yourself when you do Parallelia. And let's see here, on yourself or to an ally close to you. That's the key word for this one here. The next time the creature makes an attack, they can split the damage between any target in range that attack roll succeeds against. So if there's multiple enemies that your frontline fighter is going against, this is going to be perfect if you've got that hope sitting in the back, so that way they can add in way more damage. So that's, between both. So hopefully you're getting at least 1 more hit point to maybe even 2 more hit points, depending on how well they roll, off of both possible adversaries. Yeah. So those are my 2. Those were my picks.
Those are your picks. It's funny that those are your picks, because I also, as always, at level 2 you will get an experience. As I said before, make this. That's why I think Daggerheart's so much fun. Is these experiences that you can really flavor your character with. I think it's very cool. But pick whatever you want. Talk with your GM. See what can factor in. But for my level up options, I also went increased traits, giving the +1 to presence, and I actually instead of plussing my knowledge, I added to my agility.
Oh, okay.
Just in
What's
case.
the plan with that for later?
There's not one. Just in case things get kind of squirrely and you're gonna need to make any sort of check where the party's doing anything dangerous that requires you don't want to be that lunky clank that's in the back with all rusted up, falling down a pit into God knows what. So I just wanted to buff that agility just a little bit. I don't envision this clank being the most knowledgeable player. I envision him just being there to help and control. And
I like it.
Much like you, True, for my domain card pick here, I also chose Book of Siddle. just caveating off of exactly what True was saying, I believe we took this for the exact same reason, and that this was the best choice at level 2. I mean, that hope to cast a spell on yourself or one ally close to you, the next time that creature makes an attack, they can split the damage between any targets in range. That's huge, especially at these lower levels where you're not going to be fighting monsters with, that many health slots. So I just think that's so big. Illusion's always good, and adjust appearance, just for the flavor of it, because you never know where a Clank's going to be welcome to. Sometimes you got to go halfling.
Right, exactly.
I chose also a domain card, and that additional.
Oh, did you?
That additional domain card is the Book of Vagris. The Book of Vagris comes with the runic lock. I think this is really big, especially for like the flavor aspect. If you're transporting a very important item or so, you can lock that thing up, and it's safe. Like you could lock up a magical item, you could lock up some gold that you're in a shady part of town and you don't want anyone coming to take it, And then arcane door was big too. When you have no enemies, make a spellcast roll. On a success, spend a hope to disappear from where you are and reappear. So as I said, we're not going to be the tankiest build. It's going to be nice to get out of dodge every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my level 2. True, where'd you go with level 3?
Okay, so level 3. Level 3 for me was a little tough. There wasn't a lot of great options that I truly wanted for this kind of knowledge idea, support bard. But I think the main one that grabbed me, besides adding a stress slot and adding a hit point, so I did those two as my 2 upgrades. Mainly because you're going to be using a lot of stress later on, and hit points, you can't always rely on your evasion to get you out of every single attack, so you're going to need to have some form of health going on, a bigger pool of it anyway. So I went with those 2. But invisibility was just too good. And here's what I was talking about for using, let's see here. So you make a spell roll. While touching a creature on a success, mark a stress, and the target becomes hidden until this spell ends. You then place a number of tokens on this card equal to your spellcast trait. That's the big thing there. Spellcast trait is presence. So the higher your presence, the more you can do with this kind of stuff. And so that's why I wanted to get that increase. So when invisibility comes through, they now have 3 actions that they can do before they come out of invisibility. Yeah. And later on, when I get to the later end of my build, we're going to be looking at a good +5 to presence. So that's 5 different actions that somebody can take while invisible without revealing themselves. That to me was the next best thing. However, Hypnotic Shimmer looked pretty great. Some of the other books were good, but they just weren't tantalizing enough by comparison to that invisibility.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be very, very strong. Once you do get that 5 in presence, like, people are going to be coming out of nowhere dealing damage. Yeah. That's pretty big. With level 3 here, for my level up options, I went ahead and also I added a HP slot, just like True was talking about. Like, your armors only get you so far. This is going to be a long game, hopefully. Like, this bard's not going down. You're going to want to make sure you're healthy. And I also added an additional stress slot just to make sure I have that, because a lot of these bard features, if you haven't noticed, like, it's a lot of like spend 1 hope, spend 1 stress to do X, Y, and Z. So you're going to be burning through both of these very often. So you're going to want as much as you can get. And for my domain card, this is, again, like I said, I'm trying to be a controller of the battlefield. But I also wanted to choose a card that gave me a little bit of damage, because up until this point, we haven't really been the hero of the fight yet. And this Clank wants that. This Clank wants to be the one to finish off an enemy. So I went ahead and went with the Book of Norai with 2 of these abilities. The Mystic Tether, I think this is the big one. This is why I grabbed it. Because you can make a spellcast roll against a target within far range, which is a pretty good amount. On a success, they're temporarily restrained, and they mark a stress, which is huge. If
Yeah.
if you're targeting a flying creature, it brings them to the ground before restraining them. Because where have we like how long have we heard that age old like any Aarakocra can take down a Tarask with enough turns? You know, if your party doesn't have any range combat, like this is a way to ground those annoying flying enemies. That way, you know, your actual damage dealers can get in and rough the thing up. But this is simply a control spell. I want to be able to. I want to choose how the combat goes. I don't want to be. I want to be acting and not reacting with this type of character.
Yep.
So I also, and the Book of Nora also gives you Fireball, which Fireball's always fun, right? This just gives you a little bit more damage to the character, make it feel like you're not just a support character, and you can actually dish out some damage, especially from a range, because the way I envision playing this character is kind of back towards, you know, your range fighters, what have you. I'm not trying to be all up in the front with this guy.
No, but that is an interesting way to look at support by giving that battlefield tactics sort of situation of being able to Mystic Tethers, like really fantastic for that reason. The
Right.
fact that you can stop somebody from leaving, assuming that you're successful against that target, and assuming, of course, that they're within that far range, you can't beat that, especially before somebody like hops on a griffin and leaves, or
Exactly.
gets on whatever insert whatever flies here and gets out of there. If you're successful, that could be the game changer and ruin your GM's day, or
Oh yeah.
make your GM's day, however they look at it. So yeah.
How about your level 4? What'd you do there?
All right. So for level 4 is a uh, good solid one to try and end strong on with the options that you have left over. So I decided to go with an additional domain card at this level.
Okay.
And I actually did go for one more armor slot here. I didn't have a lot of love for increasing my major damage or severe damage. Armor slot made the most sense to me here, because I still want to have some reliable damage reduction, especially if I get hit for severe damage over my severe damage threshold. And it was just an incredible hit that the GM had. I want to be able to bring that down as much as possible so I'm not taken out. Those 3 hit points are huge. Huge. So definitely went with that. So the 2 cards that I ended up taking, and you'll probably like at least one of these. So I went with Soothing Speech for my first one, just for the normal domain card, mainly because I wanted to be able to use, so during a short rest, when you use the Tend to Wounds downtime move on another character, you may speak supportive words to heal an extra hit point on them.
Okay, that's
when
nice.
you do, also heal 2 of your own.
Healing 2 of your own is big there.
Yeah, the 2 of your own is huge, so that way you're not sacrificing completely your downtime move. You at least get to still not only help your other individual out, because maybe they got really beat up and the healer just needs a little bit of help in healing them, but also you get to take care of a couple of your own. So had to hit that. That's about as supportive as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. Book of Grin.
Book of Grin.
We talk about, so you went with that tether, fireball, all that. Love that. I wanted something that, because I imagine, like, what if we're on the run and we're trying to get through, doorway, gateway, we're trying to get past guards that are chasing us because of some hijinks, or past, whatever. We want to be able to get beyond them. I wanted to use that wall of flame to be able to put that wall up, force them to either, if they pass through it, to take that 4d10 plus 3, or they have to wait.
Yeah.
They basically just have to sit there. And this is where having that extra stress slot is going to be helpful, because you use an action to mark a stress and create a temporary wall of magical flame between 2 points within far range. Far range is a good amount of range. This can cover a good amount of distance. and most of your doorways aren't going to be far range. Most of your gateways are not going to be within far range. Outside of far range. They're always going to be within.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to cover that, no problem.
True. I'll
End
tell
to
you,
end.
I've never been so close to switching my domain card. That was I was a coin flip away from the Book of Grin and what I decided to choose. So
Okay.
it was mainly for the Wall of Flame, much like you said. Like, that is so strong. But here in a couple levels, you'll see kind of why I held off.
Okay.
There's just a slightly better version of that a little bit later on. But I was so close to picking Wall of Flame.
It's so good. And then when you have that arcane deflection,
Yeah.
you can, like that is built-in protection right there. Once per long rest, spend a hope to completely negate any incoming damage from a single attack on you or an ally within very close range to you.
Yeah.
So love that. That is an incredible thing to have in your back pocket and to be able to use. Yes, it's only once per long rest, but to have that sitting in the back waiting, that that card up your sleeve kind of situation, that's what arcane deflection is.
Yeah.
And then time lock was just an added bonus. I didn't take this card for the time lock, but the time lock is an added bonus to basically target a non-living object within far range, and it stops in time and space exactly where it is until the end of the scene. End of the scene. That's the key thing here.
Yeah.
Not the end of your turn, but the end of the whole scene. And I see that, and maybe they'll elaborate on that later on, but I see that as the entirety of the combat, or perhaps the entirety of that encounter where, let's say, there's something that's starting to fall and you want to be able to save it from falling. That's going to last that long until you're able to get there. So that's the nice part, but it is a spellcast roll to be able to maintain that.
Yeah.
But it's a nice added bonus. So, but that's what I took. What did you end up taking?
No, it's definitely nice. So when I came to level 4, I realized I was pretty squishy as a Clank. So what I decided to do at this level was I wanted to increase my evasion. So I went ahead and got that +1 to my evasion. And then I also wanted to increase my major threshold. So kind of the exact opposite of what you did is kind of what I went for here. I just wanted to be able to take a few more hits so I can actually stay in combat for the entire, not really have to worry about it, especially at this level. And then for domain card, I went ahead and picked up the Book of Exoda. I really like this one because who doesn't love counterspell? I think level 4 is like a turning point in the campaign where your GM's gonna be throwing you like more spell casting enemies and more dangerous folks, right? So what the Book of Exoda does, it gives you counterspell. You can interrupt a spell or magical effect that is taking place to make a reaction roll using your spellcast trait. On a success, the spell or effect is immediately stopped and the consequences are avoided. And this card is placed into your vault. So I think that's so nice. If you got an ally that's kind of like down on a low health and someone shoots out a firebolt, you can stop that, give them that extra turn, and completely negate the enemy's round, essentially.
Yeah.
And then this also gives you create construct, and I thought this one was very fun and very flavorful. Especially if, say, for whatever instance, a fight breaks out in the middle of a town or in a bar, for that matter. Create construct. You can spend a hope to choose a group of objects around you. That could be tables, that could be chairs, that could be rocks. It could literally be anything. And you create
the books that are on the shelf that just kind of come together. Come on.
I love this because it could happen at any time. And the first time you pull this out in front of your party, they're gonna be like, "What the hell did you just do?" Because they're gonna be sitting there, and then all of a sudden, a rock formation comes out and joins fight. But you spend a hope to choose a group of objects around you, create an animated construct from them that obeys basic commands such as hit, flee, protect. You're going to use a spellcast roll to command it to take an action when necessary. It shares your evasion and traits, which is, I think, huge, because if your evasion is going to be a lot better than whatever this would actually become. And then whenever it actually attacks, because you can control it to, you can command it to attack, it's going to deal 2d10 plus 3 physical damage. That's a good amount. Max of 23 physical. Now, the only downside to this, right, because they had to nerf it, there had to be a downside, is you can only hold one construct at a time, and it falls apart the second it hits for any amount of damage. So it's a one and done, but I just love this idea. I love the idea of it being down to the last minute in combat. The big bad is on, 2-3 health, and then you summon a construct from its fallen minion's armor, and it brings down the enemy. I love this card.
I have one thing that I do see being an eventual thing that the GM is going to have to kind of figure out whether, how they're going to rule this.
Yeah.
So it says choose a group of objects around you. It doesn't say where the construct shows up at. Can you have this be within far range or very far range and have it appear somewhere within that radius?
Yeah.
I see that as being an issue. For me, I love the flavor of this, and the fact that they've nerfed it like that, I would probably say that I'd want to see it within far range, maybe very far range. So that way it gives that player that extra bit of possibility.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to concentrate on objects that are that far away, to be able to create this, give that good solid hit, and then it's done. It's not like it's a game-ending spell anyway, but I think you kind of almost have to put a range limit on there. I think whatever might probably make sense within that particular scene, within that particular moment. But I think that's going to be one thing for this that the GM's going to have to kind of rule on.
So what'd you decide to do with level 5 there, True?
Well, level 5 is kind of the next tier up between 5. Level 5 and 7 is that next middle tier within this game as far as the level ups are concerned. So not only do you take an additional experience, but you also increase your proficiency. So you're looking at proficiency 3 right now. So you're able to do a lot more damage now, depending on, of course, what weapon you have and what else is going on. But I decided to go with, for my level 5, I wanted to get my specialization. I felt at level 5 it was crucial to grab that rather than at a later level. It felt necessary to get that right away because your rallying songs also help steal the courage of those who listen. Anybody who receives a rally die from you via the rally ability can also choose to either gain a hope or clear a stress.
Yeah. That's big.
You want to talk about reliability and reusability? That right there is the reusable one for all the other levels going forward. So the sooner you get that, the better off you're going to be, at least in my particular, in my mind, from my viewpoint here. I also did go with the trait increase again. I keep wanting to get these traits as quickly as I possibly can. So I did another presence +1 and another knowledge +1. So now I'm at presence +4 and knowledge +3. And then the domain card. So as far as support's concerned, at least from the way that my character is going to be rolling on that support side, since I'm not going battlefield tactics, I'm going information gathering. So I had to go with Thought Delver.
Okay, yeah.
Kind of have to. So you can peek into the minds of others, spend a hope, and read a vague surface thought of the target within far range. That's a good amount of range, especially if you're in the bar scene. If you're in some form of social gathering, that's a good amount of range to be able to pick and choose who you want to be able to delve into the surface. However, what you can then do is you can make a spell cast roll against the target to delve for deeper and more hidden thoughts.
No, absolutely, yeah.
So
I definitely see the vision you're going for.
Yeah, I think it kind of harkens back to a lot of the characters that I like to play anyway.
Yeah.
Especially from a support side, like the early Mortimer would have taken this in a heartbeat. But I think this has a lot of utility, especially outside of the battlefield, because you don't want to just be support in the battlefield. At least my particular support bard didn't want to be just support in the battlefield, wanted to be support in every facet that he possibly could be. So Thought Delver was what I chose.
So as always, level 5, you're going to get another experience. Do with that as you will. And like Drew said there, you get that increased proficiency, which is always nice. For my level up options, I went ahead and increased my trace as well. I went ahead and put another plus into presence because you're going to want to max out that presence as fast as you can. And then here is where I decided to kind of split it up, right? Instead of going back to agility, I went to knowledge because I feel like at this time in the campaign, your Clank's going to be kind of wondering what his purpose is, and maybe this is a moment for an additional side adventure to talk to your GM about. Like, maybe the Clank wants to get a little bit smarter, start reading some books, start to figure out his true purpose. And then for here, I went ahead and for my domain deck card, this is actually, I believe, the only Grace card that I picked up. And I went with Words of Discord.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah. I was sitting there thinking, like, wow, he really doesn't have much to do if there's someone if the numbers are too big, or if someone gets real close to him and his party and you're cornered. So I wanted a way to combat that with the spellcasting roll, which we're going to be pretty good at here at level 5. When you whisper Words of Discord to an adversary in melee range, that's a big one. In melee range, you can't be doing this from across the battlefield. You're going to make a spellcast roll, and on a success, the target immediately takes a stress, which is big, because not only are they taking a stress, but they also have to make an attack against another enemy instead of you or your allies. So this is big for turning the tides. Like, you're basically commanded one to go take out another enemy. And I just thought, what's more support than that? Not much. But if in combat, the GM spends a token from the action tracker to do so. Once this attack is over, the target will realize what has happened. On the next use of Words of Discord again, add a +5 to the spellcast roll difficulty. So this is big. This isn't something you can just spam each turn, because it's going to get virtually impossible. But I thought, like, every once in a while, maybe 1 or 2 times in a day, you're going to be able to pull off this maneuver. You're going to get that enemy off of your tank to go attack one of its other allies. I just thought this would be a good level to pick it up, so that's why I went with it.
Well, that, and on top of that, you've got, if in combat, the GM spends a token from the action tracker to do so. That is huge, because if you're racking up actions, that just became one less one for the GM to be able to use. That's huge. They have to start spending more fear at that point to be able to do anything.
Yep.
So you're going to deplete their ability to basically harass your entire party.
Absolutely.
So.
All right, level 6. We're getting there.
I was racking my head on how to go about, which one to take here, because Never Upstaged is a good one. Banish, you can't go wrong with. Sigil of Retribution. I mean, there are some really cool ones here.
Yeah.
But I think I had to go with Share the Burden for my domain card.
That's a good one.
It's not bad, because it helps. And I think with clarity, and I think I understand the intent of what this is supposed to mean. It's not as clear as I want it to be within the card itself, but I think the intent behind this is to be able to take somebody else's stress away from them and shoulder it for you, So once per short rest, you can use an action to absorb stress from a willing creature you can touch. The target describes what innate knowledge, or intimate knowledge, rather, or emotions leak from their mind telepathically in this moment between them. Then transfer any number of their marked stress to you, and you also gain a hope for each stress transferred. So it's a way to gain hope. It's a way to clear somebody else's stress, particularly in that, I don't know, could be a battlefield moment for sure, where, especially if it's just before or just after and you're about to get into another one, or it could be one that they're in contention with maybe somebody that's leveling spells against them that are causing them stress. that you then need to clear that out, you're able to gain that hope, and then you can channel that hope elsewhere and start using it for different abilities. So yeah, I love that one for sure.
Yeah.
But then I gained an extra stress slot for that very reason,
Yep.
and then an increase to my evasion. So I'm now at evasion 12, which I think is worth noting. Evasion 12, it's not high, but it's also not nothing.
Yeah.
So especially if you find armor that actually helps increase your evasion as you go, because mind you, we're level 6 here out of 10. You're probably going to find some form of a magical piece of equipment or armor that's going to be able to increase your evasion.
Yeah.
So that 12 is just baseline without anything else helping that out.
Yeah, who
besides
knows?
the Gambit.
Maybe you find a +2 for whatever reason. Now you got a 14 evasion, and
Yeah.
now you're on par with a couple of the other classes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those were my level 6 takes.
Yeah.
Nothing crazy.
And true for my level 6, I went ahead and added an armor slot and evasion.
Nice.
That +2, and then the 1 to the evasion you're gonna need. And then I decided to buff myself a little bit more and become more tanky. So I added another armor slot. I don't want to be going down here. I want to be on the field at all times, being able to control the tide of battle to my will. I want to make the GM's life a living hell with this character. And that was the main focus going into this build, was how do I piss off the GM the most. And then for my domain deck card, I went ahead and just picked up Banish because it's so good. It's so fun. Choose a target creature within close range. You can temporarily banish them out of this realm. Use an action roll, an amount of d20s equal to your spellcast trait, and tell the GM the highest result. The GM must make a reaction roll with a target number that beats this result, right? On a success, they mark a stress. If they fail, once per short rest, they are banished. On any rolls the PCs make with fear, the GM reduces the target number by 1 and makes another reaction roll. If it succeeds, the creature returns from banishment. But I think this is so big. I mean, how many times have we seen in some of our favorite, like, Dungeons and Dragons episodes between, like, Dimension 20 or Critical Role, where someone just banishes the big bad, and then they're able to formulate that plan, know exactly, like, what's going to happen next, and it really just turns the tide of battle. So, tell me how you made yourself even stronger here at level 7, Drew.
All right, level 7 upgrades, man. So I had to take that health slot. I know I'm going to need it. He's not a particularly tanky individual, so health is going to be his main thing here. I also went with an additional domain card here.
Yep.
I wanted to grab it at level 7 because there were 2 very, very wonderful things. Now, there's one that I skipped over a while back that I wanted to grab.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's right taking it at level 7. I think it's flavor. So who cares in the end? But for the one that I grabbed, I'll start with that one. Teleport. I wanted to grab Teleport all the way back from level 5.
Yep.
All the way back. That's only 2 levels, but still, I wanted to get Teleport because what better support than to be able to get your entire group to one place that they all know and love.
Yep.
Who doesn't love to eliminate travel times and everything else and be able to just pop in, no problem.
Just be there. There could be a time crunch. Like, you're sent on a mission that has a 24-hour time crunch. You're at the 23rd hour. The bard comes out of nowhere. Guys, we're fine. I don't care if it's a 7-day journey.
Yeah.
We got this.
Do we know the place? Fantastic.
Yeah, let's get
or
there.
Or even
right
if you
now.
don't, a -4 to the roll when you're already rolling with a +4 with your spellcast trait. Like, who cares?
Yeah, no.
Like, you should be able to make that.
I love that. Yeah.
So the other one though, so had to take Teleport. The other one, Grace Touched.
Yep.
This one, I think, as far as like real support for your party members, especially if you're not going for that battle support, but for actual support to enable your people to do that much more.
Yeah.
This really can't be beat in that aspect. So when a majority of the domain cards in your loadout are from the Grace domain, which mine are mostly going to be, you may mark an armor slot instead of marking stress. I love that one. When you get a critical success on an action roll, an enemy within close range takes the stress, or an ally within close range gains a hope.
Yep.
That's a fun one. And then when you should deal a number of hit points to a target, you may choose to instead deal that many stress. That is huge when we're talking about these NPCs, when we're talking about these adversaries that come up. They don't have that much stress to work with in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you could swap out the hit points, like let's say you do a good solid 2 to 3 hit points, most NPCs, most adversaries are probably only going to have 3.
Yeah.
Maybe at some of this higher level play, you're going to get 7 or 8. But if you can start marking those down each and every single time, they're going to be at severe disadvantages there.
Yeah, absolutely. That really turns the tides of battles too. When
it does.
Everyone's just marked full of stress. I mean, they really have there's no chance.
No, there's no chance there, and it eliminates your adversaries from having the ability to activate any features or spells that they have, because more often than not, you got to use a stress to be able to use these things, and so if they're out of it, there's nothing that they can do about it. So, but what did you end up taking at level 7? That's what I'm curious about here.
So, as you might have known, I'm building a pretty tanky bard here. I went ahead and maxed out my HP slots.
Of course you did.
Just as I've been saying before, I want to be on the field. But for my domain card, it's funny that you went Grace Touched because I went Codex Touched.
Nice.
Yeah, and this gives you some really good benefits, especially the thing about taking these touch cards like the Grace Touch, the Codex Touch. You want to make sure like most of your domain cards are from that same library. Like, you don't want to be taking Codex Touch if your library is full of Grace cards. It just won't make sense. But since I'm pretty sure all of my domain cards, except for one, are of the Codex school, I went ahead and grabbed Codex Touch. You can always mark a stress to add your proficiency to a spellcast roll. I love this one because you got to think of the spellcast rolls. Like, banishment, you can add it to banishment. You can add it to your control spells to really shut down the field damage. And even if you just want to have some fun with like Firebolt, you can just add it to there and just ensure it hits, you know? And then for this one, once per short rest, you may replace this card with any card from your vault instead without paying the recall cost. I love this feature because you can burn that stress to add your proficiency, and then like you guys are just sitting there, you can just swap this card out for something that is going to benefit you for the next fight. Like, I love this play.
So for those that aren't quite understanding what that means, so your loadout is going to be the 5 domain cards that you can have. Not your specialization, not your foundation, those are separate cards. But your loadout is your 5 cards that are ready at any given time to be able to utilize. Your vault is where the rest of your cards go when you've built out your 5 in your loadout. Yeah. So there is, if you see that little lightning bolt in the top right of each card, that is the stress you pay to be able to swap that out and bring that into your loadout to put one of your cards from your loadout into your vault. Mm-hmm. Now, once per short rest, you may replace this card with any card from your vault. That's a good way of being able to say, you know what? We're not doing a lot of spell casting here. Let me go ahead and pull out maybe one of my Grace cards that's going to be more utility-based, more socialization-based. You can do that without even pay that 2 stress that it would cost to do that. So, love that to death. That's a good one for sure. So, yeah, good pick.
No, absolutely. And right now, we're getting down to the last 3 levels. So let's go ahead and move on to level 8 there, True.
All right, so level 8. I love level 8, especially for the bard, because not only do you get to gain your mastery card, you also get to gain your one pretty good, I would say every bard should have sort of spell situated in the back. So I'll start off with the trait gain. I have to go with the traits because this is a new tier, which means you get to go right back into your trait that you had taken the first time, or the second time, whatever, within each tier. So now I'm getting that presence up to 5, and I'm getting that knowledge up to 4. So definitely becoming that knowledge man, and really and truly that presence is going to be killer at 5. Now for Troubadour, mastery looks like this. You craft, your craft rivals the greats. Your skill and creativity unbounded. You may perform each of your foundation songs an additional time per long rest. So instead of me doing it only once per short rest, per long rest, I can now do it twice per long rest.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit more kind of, situated in your pocket to be able to utilize. And for long rest, 2 times, you're going to be just fine. So that's not bad at all. Now, the one spell that I had to take, couldn't help myself, was Haven.
Yep.
Haven, every bard's got to have this. Unless you already have a bard in the party with this, then choose something else, I guess. But you got to have it. And it's exactly as it sounds. When you have a few minutes of calm to focus, you may spend 2 hope to summon your Haven, a large interdimensional home for your allies. This is basically your tiny mansion situation. Not tiny mansion. I'm forgetting the D&D 5e spell. Well, there's tiny hut, but this is the mansion spell.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but hey, anywho, it's that, and you're essentially going to be able to rest really nicely here, and especially if your GM is kind of like us, where we want travel to be exactly as it is.
Yeah.
Hard, dirty, not easy to deal with, and not something that you recover well from. And so this is a way to get around that. Not only do you get that nice rest, but you also get, when you take the rest within your own haven, you can take an additional downtime action.
Yeah, that's huge.
Huge.
That's armor and HP.
That's armor, HP, that's stress. It's literally everything,
Yeah.
Or preparation, whatever, like that opens it up to your heart's content right there. I would even go so far as to say that it could be conferred to the entire party. Now, again, double check with your GM that that's okay with them, but me personally, if my bard has Haven, I'm going to go ahead and allow them to take that extra downtime for every player, not just the bard who opens up the Haven.
That's what I was thinking too, yeah.
So there's another one little tiny change also to the bard class that I would implement, or I'd at least like to see implemented, but I would make no matter what, is the change to rally. Rally says once per session.
Yeah.
If you've watched our playtest, I changed it to once per day.
Yeah, once per day.
So that way you're getting that rally, and it's not like 3 days later, maybe in that one session, that, oh yeah, my bard did give me a rally die that I still haven't used yet. Like, no. It's every day. Go ahead.
Yeah. I love that. I love the idea too of the bard kind of waking up the party and starting the day off with a rally speech to kind of pump everyone up, get everyone like up and at it in the morning. If you watch our Daggerheart playtest, that's exactly how I'm playing my bard Ken. Is pretty much every morning I'm that annoying player that kind of gets everyone up and has already had 3 cups of coffee before anyone's even woken up, and I'm like, all right guys, we're gonna do this today. Today's gonna be awesome. It's a fun role-playing opportunity, and it gives the player a lot of like time to shine as well. And as a GM, if you're watching this and you're letting your bard get by with some weak rally speeches, you need to change that. Like, these need to be heartfelt. It says in the rule, they need to be heartfelt and inspiring. Like, they need to be solid.
Well, not just that, they need to be situational based. They can't be the same old for their rally speech. It's got to be not new every time, but it needs to change. It needs to be situationally based, like I said. So,
Yeah.
and I think what we did miss and we should have mentioned at level 5, your rally die becomes a 1d8
Yeah.
instead of a d6. So you're getting just that much more out of it. Let your players get that much more out of it.
Yeah.
You might as well. Like, it's makes it way more fun for them and way more interesting for you later on. So,
I agree with you. So at level 8, I went ahead and increased my traits. I went ahead and got that presence to 5. So
yeah.
you're gonna want it.
What was the other one that you took?
I went ahead and put another +1 into knowledge.
Okay.
Got it to 3 because I feel like at this point the Clank kind of is really figuring out like who he is, like where he belongs, stuff like that, and he's getting a little bit smarter. He's not just that machine anymore. And for my second level up option, I went ahead and tried to go with like a little bit of synergy from level 7 with Codex Touch, being able to switch out that card without marking a stress. I went ahead and picked up an additional domain card because I'm really liking the way my loadout is, but I think I could fill it out just a little bit more. I also chose Haven because, exactly like Drew said, what bard isn't gonna pick up Haven? You have to have it.
Have to. Compulsory.
Exactly. And then for my second domain card that I picked at this level, I chose the Book of Viola, and I thought this one was pretty cool. It gives you a memory delve. Make a spellcast roll against a target within far range. On a success, you get into the mind of the creature and ask a question. The GM will describe any memories they have that pertain to that answer. I think that's really good for situational basis because you got to think at this level, you're kind of getting closer and closer to the end of the campaign, more than likely, unless you just want to be a madman and run level 10 for 5 years. I love this because if your party is stuck in a spot and you don't have a single lead, you can go in and try to gather as much information as you need. I just think that's really big, and I like the support. The second feature of this card, which is more support. Once per long rest, you spend a hope to choose 2 willing creatures. Whenever one of them should mark stress, they can choose between the 2 of them who marks it. The spell will automatically end at their next rest. I like this because if someone has just been getting like, say it's your fighter or so, and this fighter is kind of going crazy, dishing out your warrior. I'm sorry. Say your warrior is out there like making many actions, causing him to have a lot of stress. If it's getting like down to the nitty gritty of combat, you can choose 2 characters and then that warrior can pass off his stress to you or someone else to make sure he can go another round and start dishing out the damage.
You probably want to get that over to like your guardian or maybe to your seraph, because you're probably going to be using your stress for other things. So if you've got somebody else like that in the party, utilize them.
Yeah, 100%. Those that can hold a lot of stress, like pawn it off on them, and I mean it's only once per long rest, but it only costs you 1 hope, which I thought was a pretty good middle ground because you never know whenever it would just take 1 more action from your main like combat dealer to finish something off, and that could change the tide of battle. That's my level 8. I think it's funny we both chose Haven. I feel like we both just saw it and we're like, yep, no, we don't need to see anything else. Like,
no,
we have Haven.
That's a take my money, just 100%. Take it all. I want it.
100%. And yeah, like Drew said, if you're a GM or DM or something, make combat and rest a little bit more difficult than it is. Because in the real world, are you really going to get all your health back from sleeping in some pile of dirt out in the middle of the woods? No. Try to tweak that if you're in your next home game. It makes it a lot more fun and challenging. Same thing with travel.
Yes.
But Drew, we're at level 9.
Yes, we are. So for level 9, you can kind of see a trend. You're kind of needing your stress. You're going to need those stress slots. So I took another stress slot.
Yep.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
I also took another evasion. So the evasion's 13 with Gambison, assuming that nothing else is influencing that. But that should give you that extra bit of security from being hit all the time, assuming that you got other things being levied on top of that. You hope anyway. You would think you might find something to that effect. So then for my domain card, although level 9 is a little boring for me, between those two, I did take Mass Enrapture.
Okay.
So let's see, where did that go to? I missed that. There we go. It's back at level 8 there. So you mark a spell. So you make a spellcast roll against all enemies within far range. Any you succeed against temporarily keep their attention on you, narrowing their field of view and drowning out any sound but your own.
Yeah.
You may also mark a stress to deal a stress to all targets who are enraptured. So you kind of get a little bit of, many for the price of one sort of situation when you do that. But it also, it does kind of come into play where you are having that battlefield tactic, but also, let's say you want to be able to distract the entire tavern. And you show up on stage, or you show up in the middle of the room somehow, some way, and you do Mass Enrapture, and you get everybody within far range. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Yeah.
Holy crap. It puts no cap on how many people, because it makes sense not to. On top of that, I love that there's no cap on that. It sucks as a GM because you're like, damn it. But there's that moment of this is narratively perfect. That's exactly what you kind of want to happen anyway for your players. And this can be a game-changing moment sometimes, especially if you have to distract for the rest of the party to do whatever it is that they're going to do.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's always going to be the bard's job, right?
Exactly. All right, well, what did you end up taking?
Yeah, true. So for my level 9, I went ahead and for my level up options, I went ahead and increased my severe threshold. I noticed I haven't touched that once, and if we get hit for a lot of damage, it's going to be nice to increase that threshold. You're going to want that. And I also increase my severe threshold for this match. I increased both of my thresholds here just to make myself a little bit tankier. I know I'm already tanky enough, I'm not going down, but I just wanted to ensure it. And for my domain card, I went ahead and picked up the Sigil of Retribution.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you went back a little.
Yeah, I went back a little. I went back to a level 6, but I saw this one on the way up, and I kind of just wanted to go back and grab it. I thought it was really cool. Use an action to give the GM a fear, which is always kind of scary, which is always pretty helpful. And you get to mark a close enemy with a Sigil of Retribution. Every time that enemy does damage to you or your allies, put a D8 on this card up to a maximum of your level, which at this point it's level 9. So This is one that scales pretty well. Anytime you attack this enemy, you may choose to roll these dice and add their value to your total damage. The spell ends when you cast this spell on another creature. I just thought that this was pretty good synergy with the rest of my cards, and I saw it on the way, and at level 6, it just wasn't the best card to grab, but I went back and grabbed it.
Yeah, this is perfect for later on. It's good. Yeah. It's good when you at level 6 if you're to take it at level 6, but waiting.
Yeah.
I feel like that's definitely the right move by comparison to everything else that you ended up taking.
Yeah.
That's a good one to grab for sure. I like that. That's a good go back. I saw this. I still want this.
And it's going to be one of those things. Your vault's going to be full of so many cards, but like you said, you can only hold so many. So you're going to have so many good cards in your vault that it's going to be hard to pick and choose. So going back and adding this, I'm not worried at all about missing out on something of a higher level. And
the synergy between Codex Touched and that.
Exactly.
Because let's say you do use your stress for the proficiency, all that jazz, right? And then you put it, or you use your short rest, that once per short rest, put it in your vault to pull something else out, and that's what you pull out.
Exactly.
That's solid, and you didn't even have to pay the stress cost for it
At all. No, it's perfect. Yeah, I'm really loving this like kind of codex build. I like the Grace build you're building too. It's pretty neat how we kind of both went different routes on it. But hey, that takes us to level 10. True, we made it.
We made it. The final level that you can possibly take within Daggerheart is level 10 here. So, throughout this entire level up process, it doesn't feel like big things are happening, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like nothing's happening either. I think it's consistency all the way through, and I feel like 5e never really had that when it came to your level ups. It was either like really amazing, or it was a throwaway level, and you're like, let me just get through this level real quick. Come on, let's move on to the next one so I can get to really good stuff.
Yeah.
This feels like just good, solid consistency. Nothing amazing, nothing terrible, just solid. So what I ended up taking, in the spirit of solidarity here, is that HP slot. I really wanted that next HP slot. And then I went for one additional domain card here. I wanted to get the most cards I possibly could to have at my disposal to be able to, move these things around. And a lot of the Grace domain deck is very low stress for swap outs. So I took Notorious. Don't know when I'm going to need to be able to use that notoriety to be able to add 10 to my result for some of these things. So Notorious is pretty good. It's a level 10 domain card here. People know who you are and what you've done. They will treat you differently because of it. Whenever you leverage your notoriety to get what you want, mark a stress before you roll to take plus 10 to the result. All food and drinks for you are always free whenever you go, and everything else you buy is reduced in price by 1 chest of gold.
That's
to a minimum
huge.
of 1 handful.
Yeah.
Like, what?
That's huge.
This card must remain in your loadout, but doesn't count towards your domain card maximum.
Okay.
Like, come on now.
Yeah.
You always have that sitting on the side? Let's go.
Yeah.
So, love that to death. And then I took Encore. Wanted to keep leveraging this Grace domain side that we've got going on already. The more you stick to a domain, your particular domain, the better off you generally are.
Yes.
Even with a few deviations into the other domain deck, that's perfectly fine. But the more of one that you have, the better off you're going to be. So let's see here. When an ally within close range of you deals damage to an enemy, you make a spellcast roll against the same enemy. On a success, you immediately do the same amount of damage to them as your ally dealt. If your spellcast roll succeeds with fear, place this card into your vault afterwards. I think that's an okay little almost cost to being able to do that, because let's say your guardian, or rather your warrior or seraph, hit for a over severe amount of damage on whoever that adversary is, and you get to do that immediately with a successful spellcast roll.
I mean, come on.
I'll take that. I don't mind if I roll with fear either, because now I just did the exact same amount of damage. That's not only 3 possible hit points off of that one individual, but then you got 3 of your own that you just did to them. That's 6 hit points, and that's going to cripple most, if not take out most adversaries you go up against.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I ended up taking as my level 10. So that kind of closes out this particular bard for me. What did you take?
No, I love it. I love what you did there at level 10. So what I did, much like you, I went ahead and picked up another HP slot, because you can never have too many.
Never.
And also, like you, I went ahead and tried to add to my vault a little bit. I went ahead and picked up an additional domain card, and I went back to a level 5 domain card here. One that if I were to rebuild this character, maybe play it like in person, I might actually grab this card a lot sooner than I did, and that's Manifest Wall. I really like Manifest Wall. So spellcast roll on a success, once per short rest, spend a hope to create a temporary magical wall at any angle up to 50 feet high, up from one point within far range of you to another. Any creatures or object in its path are shunted to one side. It will dissipate at the end of your next long rest, or when you use this spell again. I think that's huge.
Huge.
Especially for major combat. Say you're fighting, say for whatever reason you get a band of 100 or so enemies coming at you at once. You're tucked between two mountains. You can just create a wall and just stop them. They're not climbing over it. They're not climbing over it, and you can just get out of dodge there, reassess, replan. You could even take a rest on the other side of that wall. Get ready for the next day.
You could plan a trap. You could plan an ambush, something to that effect.
Yeah, you could do anything. I love that spell so much. And like I was saying, I maybe on another build or so, I would go back and pick this up a little bit sooner because I truly think it's that powerful.
Yes.
And I'm sad we're getting to the end here. This is my last choice of the video. For my last domain deck card, picked up that level 10 Book of Yarrow. I just had to get it. Time Jammer, I think, is overpowered, as most 10 levels should be. You get to make a spellcast roll 18. On a success, time temporarily slows to a halt for everyone within far range except for you. It will automatically resume at the next time you make an action roll that targets another creature. Now, I think the verbiage in that is why it's so strong. It's not the next time you use an action. It's next time you use an action against a creature. So you could essentially stop time. You could set up whatever you need to set up, formulate a plan. You can do anything. You can get right behind whoever is the main focus of combat and just be ready for that banishment without them being able to react for a second, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could take a second and be like, you know what? I'm hungry. I need to eat. It's been a hell of a fight.
You do anything.
Time to clear some stress.
Yeah. No, I think Time Jammer is massive, and once I saw it, I just had to have it. But not only does the Book of Yarrow come with Time Jammer, it also comes with magic immunity, which at this point, say you're racking up you're rolling really well, you're racking up a lot of hope. You can spend 5 of them to become immune to magic damage until your next short rest. Now, sure, what kind of damage is going to be dealt to you at level 10?
I mean, most of it's going to be magic damage anyway. I mean, magic immunity, being able to spend 5 hope and it's per your every short rest until your next short rest is a huge amount of time, especially if you don't take a short rest in that entire time. Yeah. You probably would have built up enough hope anyway to then retake it after your next short rest. So huge to be able to be immune to all that damage, all that magic damage. That's incredible, especially if it's before a fight and you spend that 5 hope. There's nothing that you need to worry about. Plus Time Jammer and everything else that you took within this build as a bard, they really took bards from this know-nothing kind of spellcaster that was really squishy to dangerous spellcaster with a little bit of more viability than you would expect in a bard. Yeah. I think there's a lot more survivability and longevity than most bards actually had before. So really love seeing this. So yeah, they definitely love the Book of Yarrow. Good pick, man. Good pick.
Yeah, no, your bard was we almost made opposite bards, but I think they're both just so powerful. I think they're so good. The way that you kind of controlled that grace domain. I mean, you're going to be able to do some crazy things, and you're going to be able to gather as much information as you need and manipulate you're very, very utility focused, but being able to dish out that damage and have that support function as well. I think these are 2 perfect bards. If anyone's looking to play a bard in Daggerheart, these are 2 very, very strong builds.
Great way to go to play that support side. I think we ought to do one that's going to be more combat side to try and get the best combat damage out of this, which I think you kind of have done through support and combat. I think you got that multi faceted role within the party pretty much down, whereas mine was more utility and support within combat. So, but I think I really do like the the length of our characters go to be able to do the things that they do well. But I think there's a lot of ways that any person can kind of work this to be a really good support. And I think that's what I love about this system right now is that you can, even though the cards are going to be the same for every single bard all the way down the line, you can still work it so much more differently than other individuals are going to build it. Because, I mean, look at just two different builds right here, different from each other in concept and in build and in practice at that point. They're going to be filling different parts of that party very well. You could almost have these two together and they could be like a little duo band situation.
Yeah.
And they could really fill that backline support for the rest of the party, no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So. No. Hey, this was fun, man. You got any last words?
Man, my last words here are I want to hear about any builds that you guys have done, especially with this 1.5 side of things. I would like to see what interesting kind of support builds that you guys have seen, what you might take instead, especially with what we decided to go with. Maybe there would be a card that you kind of swap out that's a little bit different. Hit us up with that. Check out our play test and let us know what you think. We play tested it. We're kind of getting into this. We wanted to see how it goes. So we had a little ups and downs in there as far as rules are concerned. But it's a system that allows you to change things up on the fly, and it's not going to kill the game for anyone or break it for anyone in particular. So absolutely love this. So yeah, like and subscribe, all that jazz. We look forward to the next video. We're going to be coming out with more here. We're going to try and do one on a semi-weekly basis here, at least to offset our game nights. So yeah, appreciate you guys stopping by. See you on the next one.
Yep. See you guys.